Right, so it is now 5 past the hour. I'll just say a few things. So this is, so welcome today. It's really nice to see all of you here. This is going to be the first of 2 language and poetry workshops hosted by CELCE, that's the Center for Endangered Languages, Cultures, and Ecosystems at the University of Leeds. The next one will be next week on Wednesday on the 26th of May. So watch out on the CELCE website and the email list for more information about that workshop. So what I'd like to do is, we're delighted to welcome 5 and hopefully 6 speakers today. If you have a question, I will ask or put the floor open to questions straight after each talk, but I'd like to just ideally save them till the end, till after the last reading is finished, and we'll try to have a sort of group discussion. But I will open the floor to 1 or 2 questions we'll have time for after each talk. So yes, and as I said before, so the event will end at 2:30. So just a few opening words about, I guess, the aim of this workshop. So as we're all aware, the world is facing a diversity crisis. We're rapidly losing plant and animal species and the ecosystems they inhabit. At the same time, our human cultural diversity is also in decline, and this includes languages, dialects, and modes of expression. Every language encapsulates a worldview. Many speakers of endangered and minority languages have a close relationship to the natural environment where they live. And one unique expression of this intimate relationship with the natural world is through poetry. We're delighted today to have speakers from all around the world, from Oman, Uganda, Mari El, and Northumberland, who will perform poetry that expresses this unique relationship between humans and nature. Our first speaker today is Amita Sanghavi, and she holds an MA in TESOL from Lancaster University in the UK, where she studied as a British Council Hornby Award Scholar and has attained her MPhil in English Language and Literature at SNDT University in Mumbai, and she has an MA in English Literature from the University of Mumbai. She teaches English at Sultan Qaboos University in Oman. She's presented academic papers in the USA, Italy, Germany, Turkey, Malaysia, Japan, Egypt, Oman, and India. And many of her poems have been published in various national and international magazines, anthologies, and journals. So I will turn over the screen to Amita, and we will hear her poem.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm delighted to present my poems here today. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. Omani Mountains and Me. This is a brief context of how my poetry came forth. I've been a resident in Oman since 2004. It's a spectacularly beautiful country. In every phase of my life, as I have evolved, looking around at the mountains which are just surrounding the place, I have found moments of pride, joy, sorrow, solace, and solitude. The poetry I write portrays my personal moments of lament, my aha moments where I have connected to nature, my dreams, and the strength and solidarity that the mountains symbolize for me. Their solidarity reminds me of resilience and overcoming traumatic experiences. These poems are about my Omanization. In Oman, my soul has Omanized. In the Al Hajar Mountains, I find me. In me, I find the Al Hajar Mountains. Mosaic mountains. Mosaic colors hide in the chasms of the Hajar. Behold, lavender laments, ochre moments, green dreams, and orange esteem. The situation right now has been very difficult, so I would like to start my poem reading with a final journey for friends who have lost their children. I think it's the most difficult thing in life to let one child go, but I have known people like Dr. Mehdi Jafar, who has lost 2 children. So this goes to all the people out there who have lost somebody or the other dear to them. The final journey. Perhaps the depths of the oceans and the expanse of the valleys between the Al Hajar mountains can be equal to measure the pain felt by parents forced to bid farewell, first to their son, then to their daughter. These depths and expanse echo the choked sobs of the mother's cries and the father's unuttered sighs. Then may these oceans and valleys offer comfort and solace that the departed souls so wise left the painful flesh and rose to paradise. The mountains have always been a symbol to me of late His Majesty Sultan Qaboos, who was the strength and solidarity of Oman. His governance and his dedication is something that we revere every single day, even now. The title of this poem is Monarch Mountains. They command the wild winds, they block the raging rays. They rule all art, they birth my words. The majestic mountains monarch my mind. As we are here today, it is relevant to mention that right now we have the crisis in the Gaza Strip. And through research that I read at Harvard University by one of our Omani students and friend, Mohra Al-Zubair, has written about how in the 70s there was this question of Oman, just as there was the question of Palestine at the United Nations. I discovered this after the demise of His Majesty Sultan Qaboos, and the reverence I have now today for this beautiful nation, which is so peace-loving, is all the more elevated because it was a statesmanship that ensured Oman has the status of a nation, and there is no question about its integrity as a land. And this goes to him, especially as a tribute. Poem 4, title, Majestic Mountain. Many a storm this majestic mountain averted. Many a soul this majestic mountain sheltered. This poem is more to do with a phase of my life where I went through a traumatic experience. And every day I used to look out of the windows, and everywhere around I would see these huge, beautiful mountains. And as the sunlight shifts on them, they take different hues and shades. So poem number 5 is how I related to the mountains in times of crisis and trauma. Poem 5, cracks and crevices on the Alhajars. Cracks and crevices imprinted on each mountain hold stories in their heart of sliding, shifting plates where oceans dried and continents emerged and floated, broken apart. Cracks and crevices resemble crinkles and wrinkles imprinted on her cheeks, where oceans salty wept down and dried, forming the Rab al Khali, the deserts with no end. Cracks and crevices imprinted on Al Hajar mirror her crinkles and wrinkles and quench no questions but leave gaps to fill imagination with mysterious occurrences, grievances, and guesses of unmeant promises. We have the ocean and the mountains rose from the ocean. The platonic shifts happened and the mountains were just there everywhere. So it's very common to see the mountains in the middle of the ocean and seas here, and that makes them just beautiful, all the more beautiful their presence is. This again is about strength that I gain from the mountains, and I relate to them as solid and standing. Poem number 6, the Al-Hajars. Winds and waves fling the sand and rage the sea, the tireless tides rush and rise, clash and lash at the range of Al-Hajars. These murmurless mountains witness the rage, and like an unshakable woman, unflinching, undefeated by the undeserved atrocities of the raging sea, the burning sand, warrior-like, wordlessly withstand. Some of the memories and outings of the mountains were sheer joy because they were about me and my daughter and her childhood and the beautiful picnics we had. And Jabal Akhtar is one of the most beautiful ranges here, close to Muscat. This one is number 7, and it portrays the joy of my experience. Poem 7, the solitary hill in Jabal Akhtar. Hiding beneath this solitary hill, an orchard tucked away of plump pomegranates, so sweet. Juice pots filled to the brim amidst veils of lush green, hoping to remain unpicked, unseen. The naughty clouds, how low they venture, they love to peep in as they glide over this hill. They hover and shower, giving the young palms a sneezy chill. This is the last poem I'm going to read, and I want this to be as the message to the situation world around, especially in India, where really courage and strength are giving away to the COVID situation, which is in the second wave now. And I want to always believe that hope courage should be with us, even in the worst of times, as humanity. And poem number 8 is for the entire world today, and especially to India, and to the strength of every health caretaker and every doctor, and so many out there who are fighting the war. Poem 8, Strength Reminders. The majestic mountains, lofty and mighty, beckon me to rise above the trivial, to stand up alone, all alone, and touch the sky. In the Al Hajar Mountains, I find me. In me, I find the Al Hajar Mountains. Thank you.
Thank you, Amita.
Thank you. Thank you.
Those were wonderful poems. Does anybody, yes, I think mountains, yes, we all form special relationships with mountains. Definitely. They have their own personalities, don't they? Right. Does anybody have a quick question for Amita? Just for, or you can put something in the chat. We have a wow from Jordan. Does anybody have a question for Amita now, or would you be okay to save it till the discussion at the end? Okay, okay, thank you. I thought they were absolutely brilliant. Really, really evocative.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So the next, right, the next speakers are Kamala Al-Barami, who is a poet and a PhD student at the University of Leeds. Her research is supervised by Janet Watson and Stephanie Dennison in the School of Languages, Cultures, and Societies. She has an MA from City University London in Media and Communications and a BA in Communication Studies from Simon Fraser University in Canada. And she's worked in foreign affairs for 5 years at the Embassy of the Sultanate of Oman in London. Ahmed Al-Mashihi worked at the Department of Mass Communications at Sultan Qaboos University in Muscat. He completed his BA and MA at Belarus State University, Russia, and his PhD at Exeter. Exeter on television in the Sultanate of Oman, its development, role, and function in Omani society. He's a member of numerous councils and committees, including State Council, where he's chairman of the Culture, Information, and Tourism Committee. He's a native speaker of Shehret and Arabic and a fluent speaker of Russian and English. So for this reading, if I'm not mistaken, there is a recording that Andrea is going to play. We decided that some of the talks will be pre-recorded because of connection issues. So Andrea, can you play that? Okay.
Good afternoon. I am Kamla Al-Barami from the University of Leeds. And of course, we have Dr. Ahmed Al-Mishikhi from Sultanate Oman. We are here today presenting a Debrat poetry in Tehran Jabali community. We will specifically choose a contemporary poet, Nasr Al-Ghina Al-Mishikhi. We've chosen him particularly because of, first of all, his young age and his ability to be very popular and have very strong poems that are respected, adorned by the community across the modern South Arabian language community, so Dhafar. But more importantly, that he recently passed, and this week is 1 year anniversary of his passing. So this will be a dedication to his work, and we're going to use his work, one example of his work, as an example. So an introduction, many forms of poetry in the Tahrat language that are often sung, like Nana, of course the Brass, Danidun, Mish'air, Lolai for babies, and others. What we mean by sung is that it's not only spoken as poetry as we know it in Arabic, but also there's a rhythm to it. So when you hear a rhythm of Nana, you know, okay, this is a Nana poetry behind it. Mish'ir is the same. Mish'ir, it's a dance as well with women. Lola is for kids to cradle them to sleep. Um, so the rhythm of the poetry uh, also accompanies the rhythm of the music that is sang. And usually it's not instruments; it's just using their voices in a certain rhythm, in a certain way, to accompany the beautiful construction of poetry. The Brat is usually sung by men, but both men and female join in. And of course, it's very important for me to say that there are many female poets that are popular in all forms of poetry in our community. Um, except Kerim is usually by men. And I guess you know Sam tomorrow, the next workshop, Sam is going to discuss that more about the configuration and contribution of Kirim in Mehri. But for Tahrat, um, this is true for Dibrat. Nana, for example, is originally a female art and created mainly by women, but of course it's equality. Everyone could be good in it, and everyone can share. When it comes to poetry, it's an equal. There isn't the the social construct. Everyone is equal. As what speaks is the poem itself, in its strength, in its contribution, in the wisdom it has in it. That's the most important. It doesn't matter who said it, was a female or a male or whoever speaks the language and can say a very good constructed poem, then that is a poem of value. I said, you know, the community takes pride in poetry and admire their poets. Tribes often request their poets to join them when attending big celebrations, um, as their poets lead in the front lines and say poetry in praise of the host. Of course, the Brat is similar to Arabic in poetry in its configuration. So it's the verses are in two halves and ends, and then it has a rhyme. So the way it's constructed is very similar to Arabic Nabati poetry. Also, it's similar to the art of Kirim and Mehri, particularly in its composition, which means the same storytelling. It has a story. It ends it starts in a way and it ends in a way, and there's a some type of story line in the poem itself.
Continue, Kamala.
Oh, this is a recording. So I just wanted to say
من عندك تزفت في زهد فمن وحب بشارك دعوة فمن وحب بشارك دعم كسر جد مقام التفهك تصدك قلك ذاك في ركبتك صفنك زهد من وحب بشارك دعوة فمن وحب بشارك دعوة معسر ابتلف الامشار فرس كل عبدات كسر منوتي لنمغ من السجد يمنع كتبت منوت نزبر سكفات جاهد من محمد بشارك داود من محمد.
So these are some words, vocabularies that are explained. Of course, with time we're gonna.
ممكن
Yeah.
ممكن هنا كاملة انه هو استخدم، نحن حاولنا قدر المستطاع انه نستخرج مفردات الطبيعة في القصيدة، ولو نلاحظ هو استخدم اكثر من 23 او 24 مفردة في القصيدة، بينما القصيدة نفسها لا تتعدى اكثر من 10 او 15 بيت، فاستطاع ان يستخدم اكثر من 23 24 مفردة. اغلي خارف الجدريت الحيمة السول اطلاع دهي ايروجت قمليل كيتو دهك اكيزا دفاع بقط شرب الصص السائد حذر اجماع انصبت وموطي سقف وموجع عبرت مكون شربة. كل هذه المفردات استطاع الشاعر ان يوظفها، ونحن اعطيناها ترجمه باللغه العربيه وترجمه ايضا باللغه الانجليزيه على اساس انه القارئ والمطلع يفهمها. استطاع ان يوظفها في المكان الصحيح وفي الزاويه الصحيحه وفي المعنى الصحيح وفي التعبير الصحيح. مثلا البيت التقليدي وجع في ظفار اليوم لا تستخدم، ولكنها ظفار كانت قبل ال70 تبني بيوت المناطق الجبليه في ظفار، كلها من هذه البيوت التقليديه لا يمكن أن توقفها وتبنيها إلا بوجود النصبات. النصبات هي خشب من شجرة الأونطين الزيتون البري الظفاري، وتستطيع أن تربط كل أضلاع البيت وكل أخشاب البيت وكل سقف البيت فوق، تمر فوق فوق هذا العمود الرئيسي أو ليوقف البيت ويرتكز عليه البيت كأساس وكدافع أو كمقوي أو جزء وسد قوي يقف وسط البيت ويعمرها. كاملة أشرح لي ممكن تعبري عن جزئية في هذا الجانب.
Yes. So as Dr. Ahmed has explained, although the poem itself wasn't as long enough to use so many phrases that have to do with nature, that are related to nature, but it turns out that he used over 23 words that refer to nature. And we've tried our best to list them down, have the translation in Arabic and have the translation in English for you to see the type of words that he's used. One very particular one that we have explained before is there's a specific beam, a beam that is made from wild olive tree that is found in the mountains of Dhafar, and it's very strong in nature. And he has explained that this beam is the foundation in the middle of a household, of a house, handmade or man-made house. It has to be that if that material is used, the foundation will be strong. And of course, there are many symbolicness to that. It's not only about the tree itself, but also he means values. He means purity, something that is going to have a deep root, that is going to be strong enough to hold the household together, the foundation together. Next slide. So in conclusion, nature and symbols from the environment are a main element in all of poetry in Tahrat and in the language itself, especially Nana and Debrat. Folklore and culture can continue to be survived and practiced even in today's modern world. So Nasr al-Mashikhi is a perfect example of contemporary poetry in the Tahrat community. He was not only limited to one language, so he actually used Arabic and Tahrat, but he used many types. So He was not limited to one language, as many of the elders back in the day before 1970s, not a lot spoke Arabic anyway. So some of the older poets in Tahrat and some other modern Southern Arabian languages and Arabic, depending on the interaction needs. Nasser, as a man of the community, used both languages fluently and ranging in different poetic forms. So, you know, he used the zamel in Arabic, of course, the brat, nana, and he wrote Arabic, namati sha'bi in Arabic. So it's an example that he's mixed old and new. He was able to be a spectrum, a big variety of using different forms and different languages, really. But more importantly, I think for our presentation today, it's a good example to use old folklore, old words, old adjectives, and of course, a lot of them are in nature, and be able to use them and apply them in a modern new poem that is also in Tahrat. So that's a beautiful mix of contemporary Tahrat community and the contemporary art of Dubrat in Dhofar. In the end, thank you very much from both of us. I hope you enjoyed it. And it was a pleasure to join you in this workshop again. Dr. Ahmed?
شكرا لكل مستمع، ومثل ما أشارت زميلتي كاملة، نتمنى أن نكون قدمنا لكم شيء عن فن الدبرات في محافظة ظفار. Thank you to everybody. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Kamala and Ahmed. We have time? That was wonderful, very beautiful sound to that poetry, and it was very interesting to see all of the vocabulary that was used as well. Does anybody have any quick questions for Kamala? Janet's raising her hand.
Could I just say that due to time, we had to butcher, I'm afraid, Kamala and Ahmed's beautiful presentation, and that the full presentation will be posted on the CELCE website very soon. Yeah.
That's right. Yes, there's more on the website. Thanks very much. So if it's okay, Kamala, well, first of all, do we have any quick questions for Kamala and Ahmed? Okay, so right, I've just got a question in the chat from Jordan, which I'll just answer live because that kind of brings me to our next reading. So in the program, the next speaker that we would have would be Mercy Geno Apache. And unfortunately, she's having connection problems today. She's in Uganda, and she was, she's not where she expected to be today. So we're trying to sort out some technical issues. So what we're going to do is put Jordan. Okay, so our next speaker is going to be Jordan Megalonios. Jordan Megalonio, who's also in Uganda. And we have a recording from him. Is that correct, Andrea? I think we can go ahead and play his recording, which he was able to send to us in advance in case there were connection problems. So Andrea is now going to. First I need to introduce Jordan because he has an incredible CV. So Jordan is a Ugandan lawyer, poet, creative director, and drummer. He comes from the Acholi tribe in Gulu district, northern Uganda. He's passionate about alternative dispute resolution, humanitarian law, and is a lyrical poet. Jordan uses the lyrical mode of freestyle poetry to write and recite about love, politics, nature, culture, and other relevant themes in our society today. He started writing poetry in 2004 and performing in 2013. He's performed in the northern, eastern, western, and central parts of Uganda. His poetry is written and performed in his mother tongue, Acholi, Luganda, and in English. In 2019, Jordan founded The Clan, a poetry group in Kampala that uses poetry to celebrate African culture. Jordan's personal mantra is, to be that which I desired to see. So I'm delighted then to ask Andrea to go ahead and play Jordan's recording, and hopefully he'll be available to answer questions in the discussion.
Hello everyone, my name is Jordan Megolonyo, and I come from the poetry group called The Clan from New Life Baptist Church. Now, the poem that I'm going to recite is entitled A Toast, and it is a celebration of nature, but also a celebration, most importantly, of mothers, particularly looking at mothers as a representation, as a reflection of nature. Now, enjoy. A toast to the mothers. A toast. Mothers, supernatural, gifted, divine, distinct from all others. The one person we love to bother. Mother. You can call her Mama. Yeah, on her day she can be the queen of drama. Queen Karma. No, not Queen Karma. Drama. She can anoint your back with hot slaps that you can't handle, or bless your cheeks with the backside of that Umoja sandal. When mothers become John Rambo, even John Rambo can't handle. A mother's rage alone can blow out a candle. Mothers can be wicked. Aish. Have you ever seen the rage of an actually mother unleash? Like when she's told her son in the village has become silly and gone on the leash, or how she will switch from English to Acholi. Like this son of mine, this time I better not get a good hold of him with these hands of mine. Awobidi tin kama okichia dobi mioni anada anya rojalina tin dobi yenyu kija kibora. Or when she finds out that her daughter has gone off with some boys and forgotten the water pot. On that day, even the devil will sit down and take notes. A toast to the mother. With no mothering school, with no mother guide or manual to act as a tool, with no cotton cushion to cushion their cottonless fears and act like wool, with no assurance of food, yet since they enter into this hood, they always somehow excel in this motherhood. Mothers are all things cultural. Mothers are all things natural. A mother is an ocean. Like a yaka token, her arms are always open. Mothers are mountains. Her love is high into the skies but lies as low as the fountain. I maintain that a mother is a river. Her ever-running love makes me shiver. A mother is a forest. Lean into her canopy evergreen and forever rest. Blessed. A mother's love is the reflection of God's love, magnified, dignified, unquantified. Some call her Mego. Dahoma weho, danomati otma mege, begivurukech. Cha parachel no cho, full kinyim no antica cello. Kichwin maleng en jolo welo, en kiluani la, pien en mama. A toast to the mothers. Yes, a toast to the mothers. Yes. A toast to the single fathers who have become mothers, teaching their children to lose themselves like Marshall Mathers, teaching their daughters to walk like queens, teaching their sons to talk like kings, to do things responsibly, for irresponsibility stings, things they themselves were not taught, but now have to be brought to their children's attention. Now that I have your attention, allow me to mention that mothers are the greatest reflection of nature, so they deserve our utmost celebration. A toast to the mothers.
That was wonderful, Jordan. Okay. Jordan, are you here? Are you online?
Yes, I am.
Yes, that was absolutely amazing. I think we all just loved it, especially us mothers, and we are the mountains, I tell you. See the virtual applause. Absolutely fantastic. So yes, that was wonderful. Do you have any kind of more comments you'd like to make about that poem or the relationship you have with your poetry before we ask for questions?
Yes, when I was writing, yes, please. Yes, please.
I just have a comment, it's Mother Earth and the mother. So much similarity.
Mm,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So a few comments about the poem. When I was writing this poem, I had the element of nature in mind, but then I didn't want to write about the physical nature that we see, the mountains and rivers and all. So I looked at mothers particularly as a representation of nature, and I was looking at how a mother represents nature, because when you look at the characteristics of nature and then you look at the characteristics of a mother, the two are almost inseparable, because just as nature is pure and natural, so is a mother. Mothers are pure and natural. A woman can have all other characteristics, but as soon as she becomes a mother, somehow her love towards her child is unquestionable. And when you look at nature, that is the definition of nature, that rivers are pure in how they flow, and oceans, that is the one thing that attracts us more to nature, because it has that reflection of purity in it. So I looked at that, and I saw mothers for me as the greatest reflection. Especially, I looked at particularly the Acholi mothers as my case study. So yeah, I brought out more of the Acholi mothers. That's why I also used the Acholi language. But then these features cut across not just from Acholi mothers, but to all mothers around the world. Yeah.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you. Does anybody are there any quick questions for Jordan? We can take one or two now. You're getting lots of activity in the chat, lots of fan chat.
Yeah, I can see it here.
Fantastic.
I'm glad you liked it.
Okay, maybe we can, yes, lots of thumbs up. So if anybody has a question, we can ask it, or we can discuss it at the end.
It's okay.
Okay, that's brilliant. Okay, so yes, we are still working on a way to get Mercy into the program here. She's online. She's has the connection issues. We're trying to get a way to get access to her recording. So what we'll do is go on to the next speaker, who is Elena Veronikova, and I'm very excited that she's able to be here today. So I have known Elena for several years, and I've had the pleasure of working with her on her mother tongue, which is called Medomari. And I'll just read her bio. So she was born in the Mari El Republic, which is part of Russia on the Volga River. In 2004, she graduated from Mari State University with an MA in Mari and English. In 2011, she defended her PhD thesis in Mari historical linguistics. She held a postdoc for 3 years from 2012 to 2015 at the University of Tartu in Estonia. And in 2019, she obtained her BA in English Studies and Applied Linguistics at Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest in Hungary, where she is now working as a teacher of English and Russian at the Department of Finno-Ugric Studies. I can also tell you that Elena is a language activist and a wonderful advocate for her language, which is part of the Uralic language group. And most of these languages are spoken in what is now Russia, especially northern and western Russia, and across into the Nordic countries Finland and Norway and Sweden in the case of the Sami languages. So, and of course Hungarian, which is also a member of the family. So I'll turn over to Elena now. So she should be able to share her screen and do her reading now.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon for everyone. I'm happy to today to read the poem in my mother tongue, in Middle Mari. So just a second, I will share the screen. So, just a second. Okay, can you see it? Okay, thank you. So the title of the poem I'm going to recite is Oto, which is translated as Grove. It was written by Sergei Chavain, the first Mari poet and writer more than 100 years ago in 1905. He is considered the founder of Mari literature, and this poem is considered as a mark of Mari literature. So from this poem, our Mari literature, how to say, developed. So let's move on. Ото. Иктымык ото уло мемнан элыште. Шога тудо ото кугу ер серыште. Тушто ладра деч ладра пушеҥге кушкеш. Тушто мотор деч мотор саска шочеш. Тушто, ужар лышташ лоҥгаште, шӱшпык мура. Тудо ото гыч ерышке яндар памаш йога. Тушто шудыжат ужаргырак. Тушто пеледышыжат сылнырак. Тудо отым мый йӧратем, тушто пушеҥге руышым мый вурсем. So the translation is, there is one quiet grove in our country. It's on the bank of a big lake. The trees are most sprawling there. The berries are most delicious there. A nightingale sings among green leaves. The pure spring flows into the lake. The grass is the greenest one there. The flowers are most beautiful there. I love this grove. I curse a woodcutter there. That's a very short poem, but I would like to tell more about that. So this, okay. So Sergei Chavain praises both nature in Mariel and the sacral area where Mari people get together in order to hold their traditional events, where they get together for worshipping. So if to drive through Mariel, you can see these such groves, a group of trees in the middle of fields. So usually during working days, it's not allowed to enter there. It's not allowed to come there. And it's not allowed to pick up berries. It's not allowed to pick up flowers, to cut trees. But if you are there, if you came there, you need to behave yourself quietly, respectively to nature, respectively to all the livings there. So you shouldn't destroy anything. You shouldn't shout and scare birds and animals. So here in these groves, humans feel the special connection with nature. It's unity, respect to nature, and appeal to preserve nature. I have to add from myself that the same attitude was developed in relation not only to groves, but in relation to forest. So since our childhood, our adults have told us that we have to behave ourselves quietly in forests. We shouldn't cut trees we shouldn't shout, we shouldn't scare all the livings in the forest. So I think that one of the aspects of our mariculture in terms of attitude to nature is environmental friendliness. So my demonstration and presentation is extremely short, so I think we have some time for answering the questions. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I will be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lena. That was a beautiful reading, and I love the poem, and I love how it evokes a sense of peace and harmony. And then there's that last line, I curse the woodcutter, like, which is actually quite, it's quite a sort of violent image, but then it makes sense in the context of the poem. And I think everyone here has had this feeling of walking through a beloved area with trees, and then sometimes you go back and they've cut all the trees down. Somebody has cut the trees down, and this feeling of grief when that happens. I think it was a beautiful poem. Okay, and it was lovely, of course, to hear you reading in Meadow Mari, which is I think such a beautiful language. Does anybody have any questions or anything they'd like to ask Lena? Okay, would you like to say anything about the sacred groves actually in Mari culture, and a little bit about the sort of cultural context of that?
Sacred area, holy groves, as we say. Indeed, in Mari we call it Kusota. This is the place where Mari people get together for special events. That's related to our Mari traditional religion. So our traditional religion is paganism. Mari people worship and believe in natural forces. So they believe in these forces, and so in the symbol of gods. So these are the places where Mari people get together and organize their special rituals. That's not every day, of course. That's for special days, special events that they start getting together from April, and that lasts until the late of October. So in these groves, Mari people have usually they have 3 or 5 special trees they worship, and these trees are sacred. So these trees are considered to be the connectors to the world of gods. So it's not allowed. That's why it's not allowed to destroy anything. That's not allowed to cut any trees, because nobody knows which tree is special here. And also it's considered that this is the place where natural forces live, and it's not allowed to shout in order not to violate, not to disturb them. So that's, how to say, mixture of religious views, and also protection, and also protection of nature. I think this way. And this is the reason why we are not allowed to shout, for example, in forests. So we are always were prohibited to shout, because it's considered that we can disturb or annoy the host of the forest. So that's strongly connected to religion.
Thank you, Lena. Yes, I think that the Maori people are really unique in this way, that they have this such a strong connection to the natural world, and such a spiritual tradition as well. That's all about nature and all about looking after nature and connection to nature. And it's beautiful to see that come out in the language and come out in the poetry today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you. Yes, I am such a fan of the Meadow people. I'd
Thank
love
you
to
very much. Glad
to
to hear
visit
that.
one of these groves. Yes. Okay. So, okay, if are there any questions for Lena, or we could save it to the discussion? Okay. Fantastic. Okay, so we'll move on to our next speaker, who is Katrina Porteous. So I'm so excited that she is here because I think she's a fantastic poet. So she is a poet and a historian, and she lives on the Northumberland coast. And we were lucky enough to have her for a whole event in a few months ago. She writes of the ecology of place and community, especially local inshore fishing culture in both Standard English and Northumbrian, and is president of the Northumbrian Language Society. Her collections from Blood Axe books include The Lost Music and Two Countries from 2014, and poems written for Planetarium Edge 2019. And you can see a link to her website on the CELCE website. So yeah, so we've heard some poetry in English already today, and this is a dialect of English that or a variety of English that some of you might not have heard before. But Katrina is excellent at reading. Welcome, Katrina, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Diane, and thank you for having me here at CELCE. It's just been wonderful hearing this variety of poetry and connections with nature and interpretations of nature. It's a really wonderful event, so thank you. I'm going to read two poems. The first is in the dialect of the fishermen on the Northumberland coast, which Diane has referred to, Northumbrian dialect. It's rooted in Old English from the Anglo-Saxon period, so it's a very old language, and it's one which is really vanishing. It's almost vanished in my lifetime. I've been living on the coast for 30 odd years, and in that time, the kind of traditional fishing which used to be carried on here, which was very sustainable. It had gone on for centuries, but it's almost come to an end, and the language and the culture that accompanies that has almost vanished too. And I just feel that I've been very fortunate to spend time with the community while that was still going on, and to be able to record at least a little bit of it. So the first poem I'm going to read is in Northumbrian, in the Northumbrian language. And it's about a particular duck, the eider duck. I don't have the slide. Do you have the slide, Janet, to put up, or should I have prepared that? Probably I should have prepared it to put up to share my screen. But
you could perhaps send it. Do you want to send it to me?
It's okay. It's okay. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that you didn't have it, but I'll just read the poem and I'll explain the words in it. It's probably better if we do it like that. So it's a poem about the eider duck, which is called in the local dialect St. Cuthbert's duck, cuddy duck, or cubby. And the thing about eider ducks is, and this rather links to Jordan's poem, they're very communal in their behavior. The mother ducks all get together to protect the young ducks. So you get a whole raft of about 30 or 40 ducklings and 5 or 6 mother ducks all together protecting them. And they are very representative of, I think, of the way the community used to be here. So I think of the duck as being a sort of focus for the community. And as I say, it was named after St. Cuthbert, who was an Anglo-Saxon saint on this coast in the 7th century. And he was said to have protected this duck. So this is Cubby. Cubby, you're a bonny board, mild and our soft, wallering down the ooze with your sea-beard feet, brune as an hard dupper. Are you no feart rowling about the lippers or among folks? That much at him about the ways you've disappeared. You heed a wadge, you nebs a fid. Ye snook and plodge among the bents a heap of barky gear, biding quiet. Where's your man? Awa. But in May, daddin like corky duckers, 40 strang. And the bonny bairns thrustle doon soft and sooty, together, everybody's business. You're a hell village. So that's the Cuddy Duck. So I'll read the English translation now, if you like. Ida, you're a beautiful bird, mild and too gentle, waddling down the mud with your sea boot feet, brown as an old oilskin. Are you not frightened, rolling upon the waves or among people? So much at home among seaweed, you've disappeared. Your head's a wedge, your bill's a splicing pin, you nose about and wade among the seagrass, a heap of fishing gear, tanned, remaining quiet. Where's your man, your male partner? Gone. But in May, bobbing like cork fishing floats, 30 strong, and all the pretty children, thistle down soft and sooty all together, everybody's business. You're a whole village. So that's the Cuddy Duck. And what I love about the Northumbrian language, thank you. What I love about the Northumbrian language is the sounds in it are so expressive. And I think that you tend to get this in older cultures. I know in standard English, it's such a sort of hybrid language. And what tends to happen as languages get written down is that their pointing function becomes stronger, but their expressive function, their way of expressing, bringing the thing that they're describing in front of you, weakens as languages get written down. Oh, thank you so much. That's brilliant. I'm so sorry not to have had that to put up myself. I should have prepared to do that. Anyway, Northumbrian dialect, because it's not a written language and because it's an old language, is very strong in this expressive function. So it makes you feel the thing that it's describing. And I've noticed a lot of the poetry we've heard just now in this session, in the different languages we've heard, does that. I felt that time and again, the sounds of the language are bringing the place or bringing it's an oral tradition. So that's really all I wanted to say about that poem. Do I have time to do the second one? The second one is a bit of an experiment, but I would like to share it with you because there are some themes in it that I'd like to talk about. Do we have time for another one?
Yes, we have time. I'm very excited to say that I managed to get Mercy's recording.
Oh,
So
fantastic! Well, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there because I'm very happy. I'm just as happy not to do the other one. So that's absolutely.
Are you sure? Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Well, if we have time at the end, we can go back to it. Is that all right?
Okay. Yeah, of course.
Okay. Fantastic. I thought that was lovely, and we did get the image of the duck there.
Yes. Thank you. And the text. Thank you.
And the text, exactly. Fantastic. Are there any questions for Katrina? I thought that was a brilliant poem.
Thank you.
And again, you can see that on the CELCE website, I think has a poem. Yes, that's right. So you can have another look at that poem. And thanks for your reading, Katrina. Okay, so I'm going to attempt a bit of tech. I'm not very good with Zoom, but I'm going to try to do this here. So Mercy has sent me her video, and I'm now going to try to share the screen and play it. So I hope this works. Let's just cross our fingers.
Diane.
Yes? Do you want
when the share screen dialog box comes up, you'll need to tick both of the boxes at the bottom, and then if it's a video, the video will work and we'll be able to hear sound.
Brilliant. Oh, yes, because there's a sound box as well.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, fingers crossed. If this doesn't work, apologies in advance. Okay, so we'll do share screen and then share sound, optimize for video clip, share, and then I'm going to go to here and I'm going to play this video.
Hi, my name is Marcy, again wrote Apache. I am a 25-year-old spoken word artist from Uganda. Many know me as the Shy Poet, but my stage name is Marcy Geno Apache. And the poem I'm presenting right now is called when my people dance La Raka Raka. La Raka Raka is an Acholi courtship dance. So enjoy. Acholi is a tribe. When my people dance La Raka Raka, the ground grinds, the dust rises to a courtship stampede, the heavens bow to twirling waists, and the soul embraces love embedded in beads yellow, red, blue, black, colorful. When my people dance La Raka Raka, ostrich feathers stand tall against the wind. Our fathers rejoice with a leopard skin, and our mothers ululate, voices shrill carried above the din. When my people dance La Raka Raka, their skins glisten with sheer butter in defiance to the sun. The wind whistles along to the sound of the flute blown to life by youthful lips. When my people dance La Raka Raka, the night is a gathering around Wang O as folk tales of the clever hare and the greedy ogre are sung to the stars. I tell you, when my people dance La Raka Raka, from hand to hand they share a D. Now to some it's a simple paste made out of groundnuts with haste, perfected to the indelible taste. But to my people, the Acholi, it is more than just sauce. It is a food of the divine, the thing that holds our spine, like the French adore wine. Odi is the clock of the Acholi time. I tell you, when my people dance La Raka Raka, they dance.
Oh. Okay, did everybody hear that? Fantastic. So that's come to you from a Ugandan refugee camp. Thank you so much, Mercy, for sending it to me. And I need to introduce her now properly. So I'll go back here. Yes. So Mercy is, she started out in a career in journalism. At a local community radio station in Kitgum district known as Mighty Fire FM. She hosted a weekend show and later became the youngest English news anchor. She joined Uganda Christian University. She won an award as Best Business Reporter in 2015. And she participated in the East African Students Film Festival in 2017. She's made a documentary for her story on nodding syndrome in northern Uganda. She's got a bachelor's degree in journalism, and she has extensive experience performing her poetry, and has won awards. So sorry for the late bio on Mercy, but I was just so happy that we had a chance to play her poem, which was brilliant and about dance. So yes, we've got Mercy here online. Yes. So if anybody has any questions, we can put them in the chat for her, because I know she can read the chat, or we can maybe get an audio connection with her. I thought it was just wonderful. Okay, yeah, it's such a privilege to have two Ugandan poets. And yeah, just the imagery and the lyrical nature of that poem. It was absolutely fantastic. So okay, I think we've got enough time. We've just got 15 minutes left, and we've heard 6 posts. Oh, Mercy's online. Fantastic. Welcome. Oh no, can't.
Hi.
Hi, now we can hear you. Oh, now she's gone mute again. We just heard you for a second there. I like the role of peanut butter in your in your video as well. Yeah, absolutely. Kamala says proud words in the chat. It was moving and it was. Okay.
It's interesting, isn't it, how universal rhythm is. It's rhythm that brings us together, and that's why poetry is so communal. It's very related to dance, I think, poetry. It's more related to dance than it is to something like the novel, I think, poetry. And it's brilliant because you don't have to speak the language to be able to feel that rhythm and to feel that communality. So it's a fantastic thing.
Absolutely, Katrina. So why don't we open up to a discussion and a Q&A? If anybody has any questions for the poets or the readers, feel free to ask them, or we can just sort of draw together some of the themes from this event. Yes, we've heard about mothers, we've heard about mountains, we've heard about groves, we've heard about ducks. Yeah, I think we've heard a very diverse set of images from nature, but showing, I think each poem has shown a kind of special intimacy with nature. Let's see. So there's some great comments in the chat. Yeah, so Deborah says this particular art form during the pandemic. Oh, sorry, now it's just gone off the bottom of the screen. Yes, but I agree. It is powerful. It is life affirming. It is healing to hear this poetry today. And thank you so much for everyone for attending. So Katrina was talking about, yes, the rhythm and the music. Do you want to, Katrina? We do have time for your next poem if you'd like to give it.
And I can show it.
Sure.
Yeah, it's okay. I think it's better that we use this time for discussion. Really, it opens up some different questions, but I think we've got enough already to discuss. So thank you, though.
I just wanted to mention that reciting the poem in person is such a different experience than reading from a page or a book or a screen. I could see the poetry come out alive, and I felt the rhythm is completely lost if we are not listening to the poem. And as Katrina said, poetry is more towards songs, singing, music, and of course, dance. It was just so obvious today. Thank you.
And we had at least 4 poems in quote English unquote. So we had yours, Amita, and we had Katrina's, and we had Jordan's, and we had Mercy's, and they all had such unique and individual rhythms, didn't they? They sounded very different from each other, even though they're nominally in the same language.
Hello.
Sorry, Jordan, you go.
Okay. I remember one of my mentors in poetry when I was starting out. It's called Joel. He told me that poetry is the masculine of music, and music is the feminine of poetry. So, and that somehow stuck to me in such a way that how to explain it in a layman's language would be that when you get poetry, you have sort of gotten music and then made it deep and concentrated. And then music is like the diluted version of poetry, basically. So that's why you'll still hear the same aspects like rhythm, and they really come out more when it is recited, as Amita mentioned and pointed out. You could clearly see that also. So I think also it has something to do with the origins of poetry, that in its early days, poetry was basically meant to be recited, more like storytelling, basically. So with that, the poet is able to use figurative language and to use sensory features in his poetry that draw a picture, and then whoever is listening is able to imagine and teleport their minds to that place where that the poet is talking about. So it then gains more power Of course, even page poetry still still achieves the same effect, but I think it's more alive and active when it is recited. Otherwise, thank you very much.
Okay, Janet, thank you, Jordan. Thank you. I would also just want to say what an incredible performer you are. And just hearing you deliver your poem was incredible. But of course, yes, poetry was never meant to be written down originally. It was always meant to be an oral art form. We've got, I think Janet wanted to say something, and then Ahmed after that.
Yeah, just briefly to say what an honor it was to listen to these 6 poems from all over the world and in lots of different languages, and how they bring up all the natural elements, the wind and the water and the trees and the mountains and the divine, and the different recitation styles. And I think it's probably the rhythm of poems that enable people to memorize it better. And poetry in the past used to be used as a way of narrating history, of oral history. And through a poem, you can remember it, I think, better than perhaps through a longer story.
Absolutely, Janet. Yes.
And the memorialization of individuals, as we also heard today as well. Yeah.
And the celebration of our identities through dance or mothers. So Ahmed, oh, sorry, we've got Ahmed in the queue as well. I don't know if he's online. Sorry,
yes, I'm here.
You next, yes.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Janet, and thank you, Janet, Professor Janet, for joining this cross-culture poetry meeting, which describes nature and how use the nature word vocabularies to reflect or to express their emotion, their messages to the society about mother, about grave, about mountains, about cloud, everything. And I think the poetry, if we can concentrate in that, a lot of things we can find in it. Wisdom, culture, traditions. For example, when with the poem which we present here today, it's not only describes the nature itself, but it express about using the nature vocabularies to express the wisdom and to express the message which Poet Nasser al-Mshikhi wants to send to the society. And it's very important to use the nature vocabularies and to express their emotions and their ideas. Very interesting doing that. And if you return back to the meaning of the translation of the meaning of the poems, you will find a lot of things. We give a lot of things on that, but unfortunately, because the time, the Janet, Professor Janet, and Diana, their censorship worked very much on our slides. That the slide not completed and not enough for that. But I think, as they said, you can find it on internet on the website of the center. Thank you for everything, for nice words, for nice poems which we heard today.
Thank you, Ahmed. Yes.
Thank you.
So yes, you can see a longer version of Ahmed and Kamala's presentation on and I urge you to have a look on the CELCE website. Thank you, Ahmed. Yes. Rob, did you had a question or a point to make?
Oh, well, it's only really to say thank you and to sort of come up with a question. I'm kind of overwhelmed by all of those different voices and just wanting it's not really a question, but just to comment on this idea of embodiment and voice and the body and rhythm and response, that I was getting so many different things, even in this incredible sense of place, even if they were in English, not in some regional specific dialect and so on, that still somehow that was coming through. I found that absolutely fascinating. Yeah, and just about the commonality, I suppose, about bodies in response to, say, a mountain, or then that thing being taken into the body and embodied in dance and something completely personal. But all of those things somehow speaking something strangely and wonderfully universal, which I'm just sort of overwhelmed by that. But we just wanted to say thank you for bringing all these things together. I've learned loads already. I'm going to start Googling like crazy straight after this.
Yes, and there's a sense in which the mountains are bodies and trees are bodies, and there's this sort of extension of the body into the natural world, into expressions of nature. But I mean, yes, I think there's a lot of I in some ways I don't like the word anthropomorphizing, because it suggests like, oh, seeing humans in the rest of the world, you know, sort of, or integrating nature into humanity is another way to think about it. No, it's right. Absolutely.
I know what you're saying. That seems to delimit things somehow. It's more, there's something else going on. But I don't want to go as far to say, you know, the sort of spiritual dimension, but there is something isn't there, transcendental or whatever it is about that, when you can pick out something that's an absolute universal, even in a translation or something.
Absolutely.
I think for me, I would say it's important to think of beyond the human. I always think that we find ourselves by going beyond ourselves, you know. So if we want to know about ourselves as human beings, we kind of got to put the human aside and immerse ourselves in what's beyond us, which is, you know, the much greater natural world. So, you know, some people would interpret that as a spiritual thing, I think, Rob. Thank
you. And we've seen, just reading the chat, there's this theme emerging of poetry as a kind of catharsis, and a way for humans to kind of process what's going on around us. And Mercy writes that she found it difficult to write poetry during quarantine, because she was so energized by live performance and she wasn't able to do that. But now she's sort of bringing the experience of the pandemic into her poetry and writing much more than she was before. So yeah, there's something about performing poetry and listening to poetry that really energizes us, isn't it? It really makes us feel alive, and helps us cope with things like the pandemic. But there's some great chat going on. So I know there's just text flying past. If we can scroll up and have a look, but there's some very good, some interesting discussions going on.
Sorry, may I say just a couple of words?
Yes. Yes.
I just wanted to join to our participants and say also thank you very much for the organizers, for Professors Dan and Nelson and Janet Watson, for organizing these wonderful events, because that's a perfect opportunity to share our language, our culture, and also, as to me, for example, that's a perfect opportunity to find out the worldview of other peoples, how they look at the world and how they evaluate. And I think that in these terms, this event just how to say, that's wonderful. And I would like to wish to organize more and more events similar. Thank you very much.
I agree, Lena. Thank you so much thank you all to everyone who's participated. And I think there's definitely scope. So next week, you can look in the chat, we will have another event. We'll go elsewhere in the world, including the Americas next week, and Britain as well. But I think there's scope here for more, for other events, definitely. I think we've all enjoyed this session immensely. So yes, watch this space. And Elena, I would love to do something with other Uralic languages and cultures, because I think it's a really fascinating group of cultures, and it's not something many outside of sort of Central and Eastern Europe are very aware of. So yeah, we'd like to organize a special event, definitely.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, there's more messages coming through. Thank you so much to everyone participating, and thank you so much to our readers and our poets today. And I think Mercy and Jordan, if as many videos as you want to make, just
Yeah.
send them to us and we'll play them. I would love to hear 10 more of your poems. Thank you.
Yes, if there's anything that we can put up from any of the poets on the website, then that would be absolutely great. So yeah, that would be
Put videos on the website, so just
Yeah.
send whatever you've got to us, send links or send files, and we'll put them up there, and then that way we can. I'm really looking forward to listening to some of these poems again. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Oh, Mercy, sorry, I heard you say something.
Funny, my network has started to work at the end of the workshop.
Oh.
Sorry, I couldn't catch that. I have terrible hearing. Oh, thank you. Okay, we'll finish up now. But take care, everybody, and thank you again for all of you. And like I said, watch the email list for next week's event.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank
See you next week.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye, Mercy. I'm glad you made it in the end.
Yeah, it's really nice. Right, I'm going to close it down now. I'll send the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
See you later.